Well, that stopped so quickly. Hi, guys. Back here again this week for your flower readings and your moon cycle. We do the basic moon cycles here. So if you want any more details, you need to go and look for that because we're just doing the basic ones that we reflect on planting, and it sort of runs in line with the Trust Mastery program that I have, and it just suits flower readings. You know, we talk about planting and moon cycles. It suits the flower readings. So this week, like, subscribe, let me know that you're here. I better open up the private chat. I forgot to do that. Oops, comments. Let us know that you're here. Pick a number between 1 and 100 and we will do a flower reading for you. But first of all, let's have a look at the moon cycles. So this week we are finishing off the waning gibbous and we're heading into the waning crescent. Now, with this, the moonlight obviously is decreasing again. The soil is absorbing, so it's a really good time to take in all those nutrients for the plants. The energy is drawing down, so we were actually grounding and becoming more earthbound at the moment, and the growth obviously is reduced. So when we look at what we're going to be sowing for this week, or for this period of the moon cycle, we don't actually put any seeds in. It's a time of rest. It's a time of simplifying. We don't create any new goals. We don't create any new areas going forward. So it's a time for reflecting, a time to just rest and break and have some time out. The flower is, if you're doing a flower reading, it's all about the background, about the history of the flower now. So for this week, that's what we'll be looking at. In the last quarter, we are looking at, with the Trust Mastery program, we're looking at self-love. So that's what it's all about this week. And it really reflects nicely with the last quarter energy as we're drawing down and we're just sort of getting a little bit more of an understanding of who we are. So this self-love area is a perfect time for it. The three areas of the physical is about protecting, the mental is about accepting, the emotional is about allowing, and the spiritual is about trusting. So when we break that down a little bit more, the self-love about protecting in the physical area, we're looking about setting ourselves those boundaries. And we set those clear boundaries and other people know about them then. If we don't have those clear boundaries, they're not going to be aware of it. And it's very similar to like a mother and a child, and you're teaching the child not to do something. So you're setting a very clear boundary, and that child knows that mum doesn't want me to do that, you know, whether it's to touch an oven or whether it's to, you know, run outside on the road. There's those clear boundaries that we have, and they're not just necessarily for safety, but they're just for, you know, everything else that goes with it. So set those clear boundaries this week. That's what this week's all about, is getting that understanding of that. Protect yourself. The other area is the mental side of it. We accept ourselves. Now, setting our clear boundaries has a lot to do with social media and things like that. We know where we're going to be. We know where we are. We don't have to respond constantly. We don't have to be in people's faces all the time. So set those boundaries there. With the mental aspect, it's about accepting. And it's accepting who you are and celebrating who that is. So with the self-love and this waning crescent is, if you need some time out, if you need to have some space, and I know this week my head's not in it. I did a wonderful workshop on the weekend for a lady having her 60th birthday, and it was really, really lovely. That the whole workshop itself was beautiful, and it was up in Montville, which is up in the mountains here on the northern side of Brisbane. And the whole setting was just gorgeous, but the weather's been horrific at the moment. It's been wet. It's really miserable, really grey. And driving up there wasn't so bad. It was during the day, early at lunchtime, so I could see all the potholes, and there was a lot of potholes up there. Poor old Mulaney and Montville, gee, they cop it up there. So had to drive through and deal with all that side of things. And had the workshop, which was really lovely, but it was the drive home. It was 2.5 hour drive up there, 2.5 hour drive home. And then I've come out, it's dark, it's wet, it's foggy. I don't know the road. It's windy. It's a windy road, and it is full of potholes. So the driving home really drew so much energy out of me. I didn't realize how exhausted I was until I actually got home. So yesterday was a bit of a quieter day. Today will be another sort of quieter day. If I can't do it, I'm going to accept that. I'm going to say, guess what? I can't do it. And there'll be other days when I can, and I will then increase it there. So celebrate who you are, get an understanding that that's what it is, that's what it's about, and move forward on that. The emotional side of it with self-love is allowing. Now, we make mistakes. That's how we learn. Part of it is of how we learn. So when you start doing this reflecting, and that's this week is a great week for reflecting, when we start to reflect back on it, be gentle on yourself. I know I can reflect back on some of the stuff I've done, and I get a bit hard on myself. So be gentle with yourself. We are allowed to make mistakes. That's how we learn and we grow. Have a look at them and start to get an understanding of the feeling and what's going on with that. What are the triggers? On the spiritual side of self-love, it's all about trust. So it's about finding that happy, intuitive medium. Now, for me, as you know, it's all about trusting your intuition. So that's where I go with that. But there's lots of different ways we can do that. And there's lots of different tools that we can use to trust our intuition. And some people use cards. I still use cards, still love looking at that. You get that physical look, the physical understanding of it, the analytical side of it, and then you bring in those intuitive messages. Other people do it in lots of other ways to really start to hone in on their intuitive messages. So it's all about trust, and trusting your intuition really helps you when you're making those important decisions in life. So that's the moon cycles for this week. Be gentle on yourself. It's all about self-love. Give yourself that time, that physical time, that mental time, have time out, that emotional aspect of you, be gentle with yourself, and then that spiritual one. Try doing a little bit of meditation. Try and be quiet this week. It's all about drawing that energy in and within. So that's the moon cycles for this week. We do head into towards the end of the week. We do start going back into the new moon. We're going to the new moon, and we then start to look at other areas so we can start to seed our goals again. But no seeding of goals this week. This week it's a quiet week. Now, say hi if you are there, and let us get into some flower readings. Now, it looks a little bit quieter today. I have got one from, one from Leah, and Leah wants number 72. Okay, now, this week again, it's about the background. It's about us, reflecting in. Oh, it is. Hi, Leah. It is about us reflecting in and getting an understanding of who we are. So we're going to be focusing on the background and the history of the flower. So that's what we're looking at today, to how we can get through things there. So let's share Leah's flower. And here it is. Okay, let me get me out of the way, and we have the flower. So Leah's flower is a beautiful dahlia. And these ones just remind me of my mum, because she used to grow these. So I love this. And I don't know where I took this photo, but anyway, there we go. Now, when I look at this one, we are focusing on the background, but one of the things I do want to look at is how balanced this flower image is to the flower subject is to the flower image itself. And it is a very, very balanced area there. So we can see that the goal is very, very balanced. But we're looking about reflecting. We're looking about the background and the history. Now, when we look at a dahlia, I can do it with this one because I know what the flower is. But there's a lot of times when I don't even know what the flower is. But with this one, I do know. And this one grows from a bulb. So this one has this history, this undeniable like storage of life, of growth, of understanding. It's like an old soul. We look at this one, the background for this one, because when this flower dies off, that the growth at the bottom, the tube at the bottom stays there, and it reshoots. And it's almost like this is telling us the history of this area that you're looking at, or maybe a goal that you're looking at, or who you are. And I think I'd like to go to who you are, because it's all about self-reflecting this week. You are an old soul. You have been there. You have got the understanding. And being an old soul, sometimes it can make things challenging for us because we do have an understanding of what we want to do or where we want to go, or we have an understanding of different things. Or even if we don't have that understanding, we have a very clear understanding of when things aren't quite going right. And maybe that's more to where we are at this stage. We have that knowing that the things aren't quite right and I need to change things up. And we may not know where to change it up, and we may not have that clear understanding of it, but we know that something's not necessarily sitting right. So when we look at the history of the background of this flower, this is definitely a tube. I can't even say tubular. Anyway, it's a tuberous. Anyway, it comes from the tube. So when we say this flower, it dies back down. Yes, your goal might die back down, but you're always there. You have all this very, very deep internal knowledge that never goes away. Now, if you look at something like a daisy, the daisy might die down, the flower can stay there, but it doesn't actually break right down. Thanks, Leah. You're laughing at me because I'm having so much trouble expressing and saying these words. You know what I mean. But anyway, you've got this beautiful deep soul that it doesn't matter when the shit hits the fan, and that's the technical term for it. When the shit hits the fan, you have got all this deep down knowledge sitting down in the depths of the earth, knowing that wherever you go, whatever happens, you have the ability to shoot right back again. And not only shoot once, but send out a few more different aspects of it. So you're not stuck in one space. You actually have that ability to send out new flowers, send out new growth. So that's what I really like about the dahlia. The background for the actual image itself, got some of these lines happening in the back there, so I'm not too sure what that is, but you've got a heap of leaves around you. So got a heap of guidance around you, a heap of understanding that, you're going to be supported in whatever you're doing there. But the main thing about this flower is knowing that tube's there, that growth, that it's just so amazing to have that depth of understanding and knowledge within you. Maybe you need to sort of sit a little bit longer and really get down into the depths of it. But I think the person you are, the type of person you are, you're not surface dweller. You are definitely very deep. And so the people that you need to be around have to have the ability to go deep with you as well. They have to have that understanding that, okay, this lady's going to go deep whenever she wants to, and we have to be prepared to either go down with her or, let her go and let her do her thing. So that's sort of the background and history for yours, Leah. I hope that makes a bit of sense. So chill out and utilize that ability that you have to go nice and deep and get that understanding. So that is yours, Leah. I'm going to do a couple of others now. I will just resonates. No worries, Leah. Pick a number between 1 and 100 if you want a free flower reading. I am just going to be very rude and jump on my phone and do a random, because there's a couple of friends that often jump on, and I haven't done one for a while. I find my random number picker between 1 and 100, so I don't have to choose the flower image. How lazy is that, huh? All right, so there is the random number picker going through. You can see there. Okay. Hello. Is it Rune Echoer? Hello. If you want to, you're on YouTube. Number 13. Okay, I'll do you first because you're jumped on and said hello to me. Number 13. I'll show you what your number is. Now, this week it is about our because of the moon cycles, it's about us getting an understanding of who we are. It's about background, it's about history. It's about coming in, not expressing out this time. So for this week, because of the moon cycles going into the waning crescent, we need to be quieter. We need to be more reflective. So that's what we're looking at. I'll share the screen for you. On YouTube, that's lovely. I don't get a lot coming from YouTube, so it's really exciting to see you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so here's your flower image. And when we look at the flower image for this week, we go to, straight away we look at the water lily. Now we know the water lily has to come through grow through all the water to get to the surface. So when we're looking at the flowers as your goal, this is what you need to be looking at. So the poor water lily, well, it's not really poor because it loves it in there, grows in the muck, in the mud, in the dirt at the bottom of the pond. It sends its flowers up through the water. Now, water is a lot of emotions. So you could find your background, your history has had a lot of this emotional disturbances or emotional aspects that you've had to grow through before you can actually surface to the top. Now, when we look at this particular flower, we're saying, and we're looking at the history and the background of it, we're saying this week that you really need to sort of get back into the depths of where you've come from. Really get back down in and have a look this week at some of the mud that's still lying in there. Now, mud is fine when you're growing and you getting the nurturing that you need to go forward, because you can look at it as a positive aspect. So what I suggest to you is have a look at some of these issues that you've had this week while we're in this absorbing quieter stage of the moon cycle. Have a look at some of those issues that you've had that to you appeared a bit muddy, a bit dirty, a bit not nice. And see if you can see the positive aspect of them. Even this beautiful water lily that was growing in this mud has found the positive aspect in how it's got its nutrition and how it's been able to feed and grow and develop itself. And that's what I'm looking at with you, Rune Echoer, is about getting an understanding of this week. This is a weekly one, remember, getting an understanding of some of the things that have happened in the background in your history and how you can see a flip side to them. Now, I know as I'm talking and saying this, there's a particular thing or a couple of things that you're thinking about. They're the ones that you need to focus on. And you can go as deep into the mud as you want to. It depends on what level you're at in your life. You can go deep into the mud as you like, or you can just sort of sit on that surface and sort of go, okay, start to get an understanding of the situation and what happened. Now, in my case, I had a very violent an attack on myself. So it was a really horrific situation. And I swore never to talk about it in my life until I could talk about it in a positive manner. I'm losing my voice. In a positive manner. It's taken 25 years for me to be able to talk about it in a positive manner. So I have seen the mud and the dirt and what it was created. And I'll tell you now, it was a very violent pack rape. So I had to get an understanding of that and how I could take that forward. And I've done that in a manner that is positive. Now, even though I've got to talk about the negative stuff, I've created this positive aspect to it and how I learned and how I grew and how I developed. That's what I'm saying yours is about this week. It's about getting an understanding of how you have grown and developed through either the emotional aspect of the water or the mud that you've grown through. And remember, even that emotional aspect in the water, that water holds that water lily up. If you take that water lily or that plant away from that environment, it will flop. So it needs the water, it needs the emotion, it needs the understanding as well to be able to reach that surface and really achieve its goal. So that's yours, Rune. I hope, Rune Echoer, I hope you enjoyed that one. And I have got a few more. Join me every Tuesday. This is what I do every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock. I have got a few more to do, so I will close yours down. Thank you for joining me, but I'll go back into this one. I've got a few other friends that I've got to do a couple of quick readings for. I'm going to do one for Brian. He's going through a bit at the moment. He's going really well in what he's doing. So I want to do one for Brian. So Brian, here's your number. It's number 69. Oh, thank you, Rune Echoer. I hope you enjoyed it. Share it with your friends. It'll be lovely. So Brian, you're number 69. Now, I know you're going through a bit this week, but you do sound very positive. And I want to show you your flower image. So pick a flower pick a number between 1 and 100 if you want to get a free flower reading. I can't do too many, but because it gets a bit quiet, I do tend to go too long on some people. So I do apologize for that. Okay, Brian, this is yours. Oh, look at this, the beautiful Frangipani. Now, what we're looking at with the background and the history of the frangipani, we look at this as a very slow grower. So when we're looking at a frangipani, it is a slow-growing plant. It is a tree. So when we're looking at your goals or your history and what you can focus on today or this week as the moon cycles down, I want you to really focus on your journey. Now, your journey in the depth of it, because you think about, say, a daisy has a really fine, a little short stem. The frangipani has a huge trunk, so we're going as a slow, huge trunk that it can grow to, because they can grow to quite large trees. So, and in this one, we see a lot of flower images there. We see a lot of the images coming in on the background there. So there's a few goals there, but this is your main goal. And to get to this main goal, we have a look at the background, we look at the history of the plant. And of course, this is very tropical. So I don't believe Brian lives in a tropical area. I think he lives in a cold climate area. And maybe being able to see the brighter side of things, being able to feel the warmth of the sunlight and areas like that, maybe those breaks that will help you get through. But let's look at that history. We look at the trunk, we look at the stems where we go in and we get an understanding of that. So with yours, it's not about the issues you've had. It's not about the problems you've had. I want you to reflect back on the journey you've had, because it's an amazing journey. And you think of the frangipani tree, the way it grows, you can with the frangipani, you can break off a full branch, stick it in the ground, and it will regrow. It will reshoot if it's in the right environment, in the right place. So we think about the frangipani and the history of the tree, and we reflect that back to your life and where you are. I want you to really focus on your journey this week. I really want you to focus on the aspects of your journey, not the negative stuff, just how well you've gone. And when I talked about those areas with the trust mastery, there was one area that I'm saying reflect back on and have a look and be gentle with yourself. That's what I want you to do. We learn and do things as we go. The best way we can learn and do things as we go. And I know I'm one of the buggers for going back and having a look and saying, oh, I should have done that better. I should have done it this way. I should have done it that way. And I can be very hard on myself. I want you to look back at your journey and accept and be grateful for the learnings that you've had and the understanding you've had. Don't focus on the negatives. Focus on just that journey and how you've got to be where you are today, and how lucky and how grateful you are that you've got the ability to step forward and move forward with it. So that is yours today for you, Brian. Hope you enjoyed that. I do, if you want a free flowering, just pick a number between 1 and 100 and I will give you a flea flowering. That's really cool. The other thing I do is I have a couple of friends. If nobody wants to put a number in, I have a couple of friends and I will do randomized numbers too. So I have another friend who always supports me as well, and her name is Sal. So Sal, here's your number. Oops, 86. Sal, here's your number, and here is your image here. Oh, this is interesting. You'll find this one interesting, Sal. Share my screen. Here you go. This is yours for this week, Sal. Look at that. I just love the little dandelions. They're just really close to my heart. Now, it's really funny because we're looking at the history. We're bringing it all back in. With your Sal, I start to look at, we've not just got a flower image, we've got a flower there in the background, but it's almost like you've reached your goal. You've reached your goal, and so now you're setting seeds ready for your next goal. But don't set your seeds today, not while the moon is on this absorbing stage, all right, or the earth is on the absorbing stage. We're not ready to start setting our seeds yet. Wait until we go after the new moon, then by all means start setting your seeds. But for this week, it's just getting an understanding of our background and our history, and we can really see with the dandelion how our journey travels. We can see the huge difference between a goal and then achieving the goal. So there's a really, really big difference in that one. So this week, for this waning crescent, oh my goodness, this waning crescent, reflect back on the goals that you had, because these are a bit blurry in the background, goals that you had in the background and how they have come into fruition. Okay. This is part of you not accepting. It's a part of you celebrating the goals that you have received. So reflect back on those things there and celebrate what you have achieved, because you have achieved so much in such a short period of time. And it's amazing when we start to look back at our life and we start to get that clear understanding. So Sal, for this week, for the next couple of days, as the moon finishes off and heads towards the new moon, don't sow the seeds yet. Please don't sow them. They're not ready to go yet. They're ready to go next week. That's when you'll start to sow your seeds next week. So if it's this week, it's about getting an understanding of the goals that you had, being these ones here, and how they've actually come into fruition and where you want to go next. So it's just about reflecting back on what you've done already and where you've come to. Again, it's all about self-care this week, or this period of time over this moon cycle. It's all about self-care and getting a clear understanding of that. So that is it. I have no one else on there that wants a flower reading. I should do a special little flower reading for Mel, because she is such a darling and she supports me in ways that no one will ever understand. Oh, no, that doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean. So you either pick a flower between 1 and 100, or I do the randomizer. So Mel, this is going to be your number 54. Yep. And this, again, it's this week is all about, where's number 54, is all about the history, the background of the flower. Okay, here is your flower image. It's beautiful. Okay, so here's your flower image. Oh, it is a little bit blurry too. Isn't it funny? Because you don't know they're blurry until they come up in the big screen. So Mel, when we're talking about the background for your flower image here, it is a rose. Now we know roses are grown for well, you've got the wild rose that grows wild. We have roses that are growing as standards. They're clipped. We have the weeping rose. We have roses that are grown for long stem roses for gifts. Roses are one of the most versatile flowers or plants there are. We even get the rose hip out of the rose. So the history of the rose is very, very deep and very, very long. So, and it's been a favorite for many, 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 many years. So when I look at the background and the history and what you need to focus on this week because of the moon cycles, I am looking at getting a better understanding of the history and how people perceive you. So as you're reflecting and going backwards, have a look how people perceive you. Do they perceive you as this way, or that way? So when somebody says a rose, you could automatically look at a rose and go, oh, or think of a rose and go, oh, a rose means love, undying love. And yet there's so many other aspects to a rose. The cost of a rose is quite expensive, but the cost of rose essence or the rose scent is phenomenal because of the work that they need to do to get that scent from the rose. It is a lot harder than getting it they can't just crush it. So there's lots of different ways we look at a rose. I want you to, in your reflection this week with the moon going into the new moon, so we're just absorbing all that energy, I want you to start to think about how you feel people perceive you. And you don't have to do anything about it. It doesn't mean anything. It's just giving you an understanding that people will perceive you in different ways. And some will see you as a very, very spiritual person, and others will see you as obviously a mum. Others will see you as a partner. And they're going to be looking at you in all different aspects. But it doesn't take anything away from who you are. And that's what this rose is saying. You are who you are. Be authentic to that. If you are grown to be a standard rose, a cut flower, that's who you are. If you're grown to be a wild rose, that's what you are. And you embrace that, and you celebrate that. If you were born to be a weeping rose, and that the beautiful weeping rose, the colors and the way it just presents itself is amazing. Then so be it. That's who you are. But that's what I want you to reflect on this week. Just how people perceive you, and get that little bit of an aha moment saying, okay, that's how they see me. It doesn't mean that's who I am, but that's the way they see me. That's the understanding they get from it. And so be it. So that is all the flower readings. If you wanted a flower reading, you have to pick a number between 1 and 100. You have to jump onto Intuitive Personal Development. And you can get a flower reading, a free flower reading every Tuesday morning. So we do the moons first, we get an understanding of what we need to focus on, and then we do our flower readings. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. We had somebody from YouTube, which is really lovely. We've got the Facebook group as well. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. And I really do need to stop talking and end this broadcast. I'll put that one back on. Bye for now. See you next week. Bye, guys.